So you were a head of business development and strategy for Eastern Europe in La Liga, right? And what were your responsibilities there?
So essentially, I was a representative of the Spanish Football Championship in Eastern Europe. Mm-hmm. My role was a little bit of doing of everything because I was the only person representing the institution in this country. So it was from business development, finding sponsors, to closing TV contracts, broadcasting contracts, developing social networks, organizing events, essentially everything necessary to make the championship or to bring the championship closer to the fans in the territories. We didn't want to be the first league because in my territories, at least, there's always traditional football. In Russia, there's a football league that has been coming from a long time. And in Estonia, Lithuania, Ukraine as well, they are traditional football countries. And it is impossible to compete the local leagues. When you ask in the street to someone, hey, what is your football team? In these countries, they will tell you always a local team. And our goal was always to be the second most watched league in the country.
In one sentence, to develop the brand recognition.
This is one of the topics, yes. And in the second one, actually everything leads to the other one, but it's increasing brand awareness. Yes, this is one. And increasing brand awareness leads us to more revenues in terms of commercial partners and broadcasting contracts. The more people watches the matches of La Liga in Russia, the more money the broadcasters are ready to pay to the institution to broadcast the championship.
And you were doing this also in Russia, or you were doing this only in Russia?
No, I was doing this in Russia, in Estonia, Lithuania, Lithuania, Ukraine, Belarus. Okay. I hope I don't forget any of the other countries. Yeah, those are the countries. Yeah, essentially, most of the business was in Russia because it's the biggest country in terms of population and in terms of money as well, economic resources. So yeah, when I arrived to Russia in 2016, they didn't even have a broadcasting contract with La Liga. So La Liga was not broadcasted in Russia and in Mongolia. These were the only two countries in the world where there was no broadcasting contract. So we closed broadcasting contract for the next 3 years because you sell them in cycles of 3 or 5 years in most of the international leagues. And we started the rest of the development. We opened the social local networks, Kontakte, Odnoklasniki. Actually, with no investment, we got 1 million followers in 1 year in the main local network, which was a good achievement. But now, well, since the situation turned out to be a little bit complicated in the last year, apparently there is no activity right now. So the efforts are like in suspension.
But did you consider your mission successful at the time that you were still doing the job?
Yes, I think it was actually quite a success, especially, well, we got about 80 million euro in revenues in 5 years, which was from 0 to 80 million revenues. We got a lot of followers. We organized a lot of events, and we were lucky because the World Cup was in 2018 in Russia. So we had also this extra football hype that helped me and helped the team develop the job over there easier. So I think it was successful. It could have been better, definitely. But well, we didn't have much resources for this territory because it was not a priority territory like Mexico could be, China, where they have more Latin actually followers of football, or the hype of a sport like in China was crazy at that moment.
Okay, and to what extent was the government of Spain involved in the development of La Liga and La Liga's recognition?
So there is not much official involvement of the government of Spain in La Liga. La Liga is a private entity who is composed by 42 professional clubs, and they are by law assigned with some tasks. The task essentially is to sell the TV rights and the commercial rights of the competition locally and abroad. Before, well, La Liga has a good lobbying with the government, and this is the most of the relation with the government is try to impose their ideas, so it makes that easier for the football clubs. And well, I think it was a breakthrough, a change in 2015, because before the clubs were able to sell their TV rights and commercial rights independently. So, for example, Barcelona and Real Madrid could go and sell, their own matches to some broadcaster. And that's going to be good for them because they are huge teams. They have the brand awareness. They have a good brand. They will sell. They have Messi. They have Cristiano. So it's not difficult to sell. But the problem was coming when a smaller team like could be Celta, Elche, Eibar, middle-sized team or small-sized team in terms of economics needed to sell these rights. And they were not able because no one was interested in watching.
There was a huge gap.
Yeah, it is a huge gap because first, Celta Vigo, for example, I mean, people is interested in Vigo in their own city, but when you go internationally and you go locally in Spain, nobody wants to watch them like Real Madrid, Barcelona, or even Atletico de Madrid. So what the government did is appointing La Liga to centralize all the rights of the competition. So you sell the competition as a whole, not individually. So if somebody buys, they have to buy the whole competition. That increased the revenue for the small teams. It doesn't make the big teams lose revenue, Real Madrid or Barcelona, they don't lose, but the small teams receive much more according to some criteria that the league establishes, depending on many things, historical, points, social media viewers. There were some criteria for which you spend this money.
It was still win-win situation for the small and the big clubs in Spain.
It was a win for the small. It was keeping the status quo for the big ones. But in any case, they felt that some power was taken from them because it was not only about the money, it's about the decision making. So Barcelona and Real Madrid, they couldn't sell the rights anymore. Even if someone comes here and offers them 1 billion euro, they cannot decide, okay, yes, I'm going to sell you this. So it's for the big teams, it's always a situation of power and potential. At the moment, yes, they receive the same money, probably a little bit more, but it happens now, for example, with some broadcaster coming from Qatar and offering Real Madrid and Barcelona only for the matches 3 times the amount. They cannot sell that because it needs to be commercialized centrally by La Liga. But to your question, there is not much influence on the government. Of course, there are like the president of La Liga inviting some friends from politics inside, so they will help inside and outside. And, you know, this is always the football politics stuff. But in terms of official relationship, it shouldn't be anything.
And you mentioned Qatar in one of your sentences. So let's switch a little bit to the recent topic, the World Cup in Qatar. So what are your thoughts on the whole World Cup and everything that this country and FIFA were accused of? So human rights, the way that Qatar received their bid for hosting the World Cup.
Okay, you know, in terms of human rights, I think if we are looking for the country to host the FIFA World Cup, which is respecting human rights, we will have a lot of problems to find one. Not about Qatar. I mean, it's okay. We have a list of issues that they might have. We had a list of issues that they might have in South Africa, in Brazil, in Russia, even in Germany. I mean, everywhere you have some sort of problem that is about the rights of people. I think it's a wrong choice, not because of this. It's a wrong choice because of it doesn't align at all with the principles that FIFA is defending themselves. And this is what you have to think about. You cannot solve all the problems in once.
Can you mention some of those principles?
Well, for example, equality, diversity, LGTB, non-discrimination, equal rights from women. So these principles that FIFA always defend, respect, etc. That, well, if you go to some of these countries, you clearly see, even by the impositions that Qatar made to the organization, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Still, you know, a selection of the of the host country in the Football Cup is not about principles, especially for the last 12, 16 years. It's more about money. And well, I don't blame really much the current administration of FIFA for the decisions made 12, 16 years ago, because I mean, World Cup of Qatar, I think it was assigned in 2010, but they were really soft on imposing their own principles and to ask the host country to respect the values that FIFA is trying to develop through football. And this is what concerns me more in this case. I think the organization was good. I think that there was no security problem, which is important. It's a little bit artificial to have it, in the middle of November, cutting the championship in the middle and everything. But I think the main problem with FIFA, with the football players, is that they were not able to defend the values that they are trying to spread for the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah. And what you think of the winner, the World Cup winner, Argentina?
I think the World Cup in general was a very low level in terms of game. I had the chance to watch many matches. It didn't surprise me that Argentina won. I mean, the final was a really good match, especially second half and extra time. First half was totally dominated by Argentina. And I was expecting actually Messi to arrive very far in this tournament because it's going to be his last World Cup. It was the tournament that he didn't have. And it was the tournament that it was putting him like the best player of probably all times in terms of football. So he took his opportunity. And I think most of the people in the world of football is happy, not for Argentina, but for Messi, because they feel this guy who is not arrogant, who is just playing football, coming from a nice narrative, nice story, poor guy when he was small, sick, then came to Europe. And, he created this dream story that every children wants to have. Ending up with the victory in the World Cup, which is, I'm Spanish, but I wanted to Spain to win since we didn't have the right performance, the right players, etc. I mean, my next choice was Messi, not Argentina, but I wanted Messi to win. If Messi was, Portuguese, I will want Portugal to win the World Cup. That was my prognosis. And I think most of the people is happy because of him.
Okay. And do you think that what was happening in Qatar in terms of those acquisitions, do you think that this is somehow going to affect the future viewership of this tournament?
I don't think the viewership. I mean, if you can see actually in the audience previews that some broadcaster has released, the viewership is bigger than in the previous World Cup. So it was better seen by fans. Much more people than in the previous World Cup was watching the matches. But in the future, what probably will be influenced is the way that FIFA is thinking about the hosting country. I think that they learned the lesson in terms of their principles and values, and they will not allow to a country who is not aligned with their principles to be the host, because it will cause them a lot of image problems, a lot of PR problems, and they don't need to deal with that for some million euro. Maybe they do, but we're talking about some, again, corruption schemes like we are seeing now in the European Union, Qatar paying the vice president, etc., etc., etc. I guess everything is correlated, but I don't think it's going to damage the viewership. What is going to damage the viewership is that old-fashioned way of understanding football. We're still watching football like 30 years ago. I was explaining before, you need to adapt the game, the rules, the stadiums to the young generations. Otherwise, in 30 years, kids are going to be playing the 30 years from now Fortnite and Call of Duty and not watching football.
And what do you think of the future of FIFA?
I think they have a brilliant future. I mean, I think this is an organization that well managed. It's a useful organization. They are creating new competitions. They're in continuous evolution. They just need to figure out where they are settled themselves. We need an organization like that to create some regulations to control football from, gangs and people coming to disturb it. We need someone to regulate the transfers of the football players. We need someone to control that minors are not abused. We need someone to control that the agents are fulfilling the rules. We need someone to control the transfers and the clubs. And this, I think FIFA is doing good in terms of these regulations, but they need to enforce them. And this is the point that they actually didn't make it through. They have a lot of nice regulations that are actually good, but they lack of the power to enforce them. And of course, all these gangs, crooks, etc., are very well advanced in terms of violating the rules. FIFA is always behind, but like any other regulatory system, even states are behind, new criminals. I think FIFA is useful. The concept of the organization is good. they are successful in terms of, the main event they have is the World Cup, and it's a worldwide success. A lot of people watch that. They're making a lot of money. They have a good role, but they need still to think about the principles, what they want to be, and how they want to do it.
Yes, totally agree with that. And final switch of this interview, we will talk a little bit about Hype. So can you tell us more about this organization? What is its concept?
Yeah.
And how are you involved in this organization?
I got involved with Hype before the World Cup 2018. They were going to have a conference in Russia, and they needed some experts for the industry to give some, to join some panel that they needed some contact. So I started collaborating with them at that moment. And then it continued during the last 5 years. I'm officially advisory to the board, which is also pro bono position. What I do is essentially advising the startups participating in Hype Sports Innovation to the owners, and to mentoring. I bring them to network. I give them some advices. I give them the knowledge that I had from my experience in football. What Hype does is they are a sports accelerator for startups. So startups apply, and they are selected. They have a business model that they are taking a right to buy the shares of these companies if they're successful in the future. So these startups get into the program, and they pass through several stages of acceleration of their processes of business. So you can come up like in startup with nothing, and you get out of the program with some system, network, even sometimes some investment capital. So this is essentially what they do. At the beginning was more physical. We were attending to the places, and we were going to, but with the COVID, everything changed into a more online model. And we have like online accelerators a couple of times a year.
And as part of this organization that kind of supports those sports startups, what advice you would give to the young people who want to be entrepreneurs in the sports sector?
The most important for me is first, check the competition. I mean, there are a lot of, out of the 2,500 companies that we were having during the last 5 years, a lot of them, they are thinking that they are offering a product that is actually not in the market, but it's been in the market for a long time. So there is not much innovation on them. So you have to check what they're going through. If there is a company in the market that is doing the same thing you are doing, but they have already been 3-4 years there, it's going to be very complicated. So you have to understand that your product is really unique, and to go into this market. You have to have a lot of resilience in football. You have to control many different areas, from political to knowing the rules of the sports you are inside, not only football, but any other sport. You need to understand that you have to have a technical person, you have to have a pitch person, you need to understand to whom to communicate. It's actually not much different from any other company, with the addition of the emotion that sports give, and the hype. Actually, that's why it's called Hype, probably because of the hype that the sports bring you. Is different than any other, the banking company or the fashion company, etc., etc. But the most important, and this is from my experience and point of view, is not talent. You can have some talent, but it's the network. I mean, essentially, for every single thing that you need to do, you need to know someone in the right place who's ready to help you. And probably you need to bullshit a lot. Probably you need to show that what you have is really great, but bullshitting a lot at the same time. I think that the most important is to have the right connections in the market to have your company successful. Even if your company is not going to be super at the beginning, the network is going to help your company very much to achieve the goals that you have settled for. Not the other way. You can have a fantastic company with a product that everybody would love to have, but no network, so you are switched off totally. But if you have the network with the normal company, you can use this network to make it just right for the business.
Yeah. And finally, to not to sum up, but to conclude this interview, do you have one sentence that has always motivated you to continue further, to get your drive?
I have every day a different sentence depending on my different problems that I might have. Some days I'm trying to have a lot of trust in myself. It's not a made sentence, but the main goal or the main force that keeps me going is I trust on myself. You have to have a lot of trust in yourself to continue in this business, because you're going to receive a lot of slaps, one side, the other one in front, and you will want to stop and change the business every day. But you will have to find your motivation in the small things, like, okay, let's do this here, this day, this here, that day. Just keep on going. It's probably works for every industry, but this one with the emotional one, when you get a little bit of love for the sport, for your club, for your fans, I think keep on going is the best one, because you know that every day, something new is going to happen. So I'm not surprised anymore. I'm just taking the punch and learning how to just move away from the next one, and probably sometime give one back. But yeah, it's keep on going. It's not about work hard. It's not about have a lot of talent. It's about resist. And the more you resist, the more able you're going to be to understand what is inside and to solve the problems that you might have.
I think that this is the perfect conclusion. We want to thank you once again for being part of this interview, for being part of our episodes, Meet the Athlete, and we wish to see you again somewhere in the future.
Thank you very much, Annalena. So it was my pleasure to participate on this, and anytime you need me, you know where I am.